wonderful playing. So fluid, and your sound was just amazing. I thought it was gorgeous. How did you feel about that?
I felt okay. It's pretty scary to play.
I think Judo is, interestingly enough, I find it very transparent, and you feel a little vulnerable when you play it, because it seems to me that every little note you can hear it, and if you do hit like not quite the right note, it just it's painful almost physically, right? You get that feeling too. So I sympathize with you about nerves and playing this piece for sure. Let me just ask you first what edition you have here, because it looks kind of Russian-ish. Is that right?
It's edited by Sofronitsky, but it is her text. Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. You know, there are lots and lots of editions of Judo, and the reason for that is because Ravel at that time, he was pretty young, and he didn't really know enough to sign on to a particular publisher. But of course, later on, we all came to know his music to be published by Durand. And then at one point, there was a little window of opportunity, I think it was about 24 months, where the copyright dropped. And I got these quick phone calls in succession from different people saying, we should come up with a new edition, there's so many mistakes, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, go for it. You know, I think it's a great idea. And so Roger Nichols produced this brilliant set of Peter's editions, Judo. So, you know, if you're looking for a less expensive edition, but also one with many corrections and wonderful notes, this is a really, really good edition. And I encourage all of my students, regardless of whom they're playing, especially Beethoven, but if there are many different editions of something, to look at different editions for your own sake, okay? There's also another one here I brought for you as a kind of, for you to take a look at. This is a Japanese edition. If you'd like to take a look at it afterwards, I'm happy to show you. But this is a Japanese edition that has been published. I can't read Japanese, I'm Chinese, but I should be able to see some of this, but I can't. But this was published by Junko Okazaki, who was one of a lot of Perlmutter students. Now, I was also a Perlmutter student. I think Junko was a little before me. And what she did was she took all of Lado's instructions about everything that she studied, and she published them in this. And so if you look at this, you can see in here all the little blue markings in here. Those are what Vlado, our teacher, told us to do. So I would say if you have a chance, take a look at both of these editions. Maybe after you can take a little picture and, you know, Adobe it. One of the, I'm not going to say rules, but one of the things that Vlado Perlmutter taught me, and the interesting thing, you might not know this, is that Jeff's teacher studied with Vlado Perlmutter, and I studied with Vlado Perlmutter. Now, Jeff and I are not in the same generation, so it's kind of like interesting that we're all part of the same family, but you know, our teachers also, you know, his teacher studied with my teacher, I studied with my teacher, so it's a little nutty, you know, it gets a little intense. But one of the things that Vlado said to me all the time is, you must never, never retard when you feel like it. Because Ravel pretty much wrote everything exactly the way he wanted it to be played. Do you know anything about him? Do you know what he looked like?
Yeah.
What can you tell me about Ravel, how he looked?
Oh, I don't know if I could describe his looks that well.
Okay, well, I'll help you, right? He was definitely a dandy. He loved clothes. He spent hours and hours picking out socks, picking out a tie. I went to the Bibliothèque Nationale and I was looking through the archives, and one of the things that made me laugh so loud was I found a bill of sale of clothing of Ravel's that had like 3 waistcoats, 4 suits, 3, you know, shirts, a couple of bow ties. I mean, it was ridiculous. The guy was just fashion forward. He should have been on America's Best Top Model. I mean, he would have been that. And so I think the way he picked his clothing is a lot of the way he lived his life was very precise and very intentional. So one of the observations I did make of your playing, which I think would help you a lot, is if you didn't retard all over the place. It's totally okay, from what I understand, to take a little space, like a tiny gap between sections. And so oftentimes, if you could just play this first page, I will just tap you gently on the shoulder, not to retard. I'll go like this, and just take a tiny little breath where you think you might like to separate two ideas. Can you just try that? You changed a little bit, but you still tried to retard and do a little here and there. Another thing about playing Ravel's music, and I'll demonstrate these two things to you. When I went to Ravel's house, what I found so amazing about the house was he was about my height, and he had a love of beauty and things. Like, he had tchotchkes everywhere. He wasn't a hoarder, but he had an incredible aesthetic manner about him. So everywhere you went, and everything was at my level, which I loved, because he hung the paintings at my level, you know, because I'm married to a 6'2" guy, so everything is kind of up here, but everything in Ravel's house was at my level. And when you walk around, there were these beautiful teacups, beautiful fabrics, beautiful wallpaper, beautiful pictures. I mean, it was incredible. And my sense when I went to the house was that when you go into his home and you look at all this stuff, you understand him better in that he's not trying to hug the teacup or hug the fabrics. He's admiring things from a distance. Now, Jeux is about a what?
A fountain.
It's about a fountain, and a specific one that he saw in Versailles. And so he's really describing this fountain. My impression from listening to you play was more that you were in the fountain and you were having a great time with the water, as opposed to you standing on the side and saying, oh, I'm looking at that fountain. It's kind of this perfect venue here, because we're looking at, you know, the Capitol, we're looking at the cathedral. You're not hugging that, you're describing it. So I'd like you to try, I'm gonna have you play a little bit now, and just think about those 2 points. One is, don't get all emotional, because you want to keep some distance from it, because you're describing something to somebody, okay? And number 2, don't slow down when you feel like it. And then I'm going to demonstrate a little, and we'll see how it goes. But I know you're highly intelligent, and you'll get this right away. I like that much more, and I felt it was more in keeping with some of the things that we were talking about. I'm going to throw a lot of stuff at you, so I want you to know I don't expect you to do everything right away, but what I'd like you to do is consider some of the things that I suggest and take it away and kind of chew on it and sleep on it, and then see how it fits with you, okay? Because I know you've been playing this for a while. The other element of Ravel, I think, that's very critical to understand is he's not a sentimental guy. You know, people used to think he was kind of cool and aloof, but in fact, he wasn't at all. He had a lot of feelings, and he was a very devoted friend. He loved children, he loved little knickknacks and toys. So I think, again, if you could take some of the sentimentality away and some of the emotional aspects away from the piece, I think that would make this much more true to his interpretive style. And I think that some of that has to do with your changing of tempo too. It gives me the impression of a quickening, you know, like you did a lot of a big accelerando, I felt, amazingly in the hardest spot, and you were perfect. In this section here, I would totally not speed up. Okay. Again, if he didn't write slow down or speed up or you know, take a cappuccino break or whatever, don't do it. You know, just do what he wrote. And that's a lot harder to do than I think than people understand. Do you mind if I just show you a
Yeah.
couple of things? Is that okay? And I haven't tried the piano, so I'll probably mess it up, but let me just try and show you what I mean. So a little more objective, less emotional, not so many retards, not so many changes of tempo, okay? Can you turn my page? Thank you. Oh, sorry. But you see what I mean? It's just a little more stately and not too fiddly. Do you see what I mean? And you might think, oh boy, but that's kind of boring. But in fact, it's a little cooler and a little more objective.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you? Okay, can we skip to another section? Can you start? And here's a great fingering that Ravel gave my teacher, and he gave it to me. It's all thumbs here. Can you start right there? Okay, I'm going to stop right there. This is a tempo. What does that mean to you?
Just recovered from the round tunnel.
Can you start the beginning and match that beginning to this tempo? Okay, now jump to this. Play this tempo exactly the same. Da, da, dee. That's it. Good. No slowing down. Keep going. Okay, right there. Why do you speed up? Does it say speed up?
No.
Maybe in the Russian edition it says speed up. I don't know. No, it doesn't say it, right?
Yeah.
Can you do it again from that da dee dum ba ba bee, measure 29? Okay, good. Great, yeah. So, you know, I think your tendencies are to manipulate it more than it needs to be.
Okay.
Okay. The second theme, you know, it's interesting. Jeux is sort of like a sonata form. I don't know if you agree with that, but you have a main theme, and then the second theme is do ba bi ba ba ba. And you know, I think you can play that with more attention and more beauty to the actual. There's a little diminuendo there. Do you see it? And then a diminuendo, and then here we have. I think you know, if you play it with great feeling and beauty and attention, it would be so much more convincing. Then you have here. Same idea. It's something treasured. Think of something that you really treasure, like a teacup that you think is just so spectacular. It is so beautiful. It's Art Deco, but you're really admiring it. But you're not hugging it. Okay, try that second theme again. Same tempo. Good. Crescendo, subito piano. Don't speed up. Now retard here. Done. Now beautiful top theme. Same tempo. Beautiful. Gorgeous. Okay, good, good, good. Does that feel too weird to you?
No.
No? Okay, good. In a way, it should make it easier because you have so much facility and you're so incredibly agile that I don't think you really need to do all of that. Now, the third little element I'm going to tell you, which is really a kind of difficult thing to teach, is about pedaling. When I went to Versailles with my husband a couple years ago, I was on sabbatical and I went with him to Versailles, and it was a nightmare because we got there, it was like June, and there were like thousands of people there, and we could barely get anywhere. And we were like all kind of literally moving like this inside each room. It was terrible. I hated it, and I said to him, let's go outside right away. Let's just go outside right away. So we went out, and we ended up walking through the gardens, and we found this beautiful Latona sitting on the tortoise, and that was actually, I said, oh my God, you're not gonna believe it. This is the actual fountain which Ravel saw and it inspired him. What I found fascinating about it, there were all these sort of docents around, was that the original engineering lasted forever, and they only had just recently replaced it, which was gobsmacking to me. And it's not like Bellagio, that kind of, spray. It's much more delicate, and it's like the water would come out like tiny little droplets like this, and then they would come up like this and then go down, but nothing over the top. It was all very, transparent and beautiful, but not heavy, not like volumes of water coming at you. And I always think of that in terms of pedaling. How do we really want to show that in the volume of pedaling and the volume of water, I think, are kind of related. So one of the things that I learned, now this is not something that Bellotto taught me, but I learned for myself through an incredible amount of experimentation, is what part of my foot do I want to pedal on? So I discovered the best part of the foot, for me, is actually between my big toe and the next toe over. I know most of the time, can I just borrow your shoulder for a minute, because I'm going to fall over. You pedal here, right at the ball of your foot, but I never kind of understood that, because to me, I don't really feel anything at the ball of my foot. But if I'm like in between my big toe and my second toe, I can actually kind of control it and even massage it a little bit. Do you see what I mean? So I'd like you to try everything that we just talked about again, and then you're just going to keep playing. And I'd like you to experiment with the amount of pedal, and let me see where your foot is right now. Can I just?
Usually I'm like,
I'm sorry. I'm gonna get down here a little bit. Just turn it a little and do you have your toe on there?
yeah,
Okay, let me see. How's that?
that's fine.
Okay, great. That's a good spot. Okay, let's try it one more time. Now, the last thing I want you to do, and I apologize if I'm throwing too many things at you, that's what I'm saying, just forget about everything I said, like after you walk off the stage. But let's listen to that left hand in the beginning, and I'd like this left hand to be more of the primary, not the right hand. It's really pretty, actually. And if you notice, I did a lot here. It has its own beauty. And then the right hand is the water, and the left hand, I think, is just sort of the surroundings and the beauty of the park, and maybe Latona sitting there, but the right hand is just tripping around it. okay? And remember your foot,
Yeah.
and listen to your left hand. Try it again. Keep a steady tempo. Don't speed up. Don't slow down. Keep moving. And beauty. Sing. Love it, but don't get too involved. Go ahead. Back in tempo. Don't speed up. Okay, phenomenal. It's starting to change. I really feel that it's less fussy, it's more clear. Okay, when we get to this development now, we have this complex rhythm with the left hand. We have the triplet. Those are the only things I really want to hear, actually. So don't be too worried about the 30 seconds, okay? And then here, I thought you could have done a little bit more with the left hand. I think you could do a little more of that left hand thing. One aspect of this development that I think is very interesting is that Ravel gives you every 2 bars a different dynamic starting point. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily so linear. He's not saying continually crescendo. He's giving you a step up in dynamic changes. So I'd like you to be more precise when you start each of those step ups. I want to hear, oh, Karina's really starting at MP, whereas the first one was at P. Now the next one is really going to be at F, whereas the previous one was at MP. You know what I'm saying? And again, you know, I think that the way the writing is, it's more complex. The left hand and the right hand have more of this counterpoint. You do not need to put any more a cello rondo on it. You know, it's unnecessary. Although Ravel, I think being a kind of smarty pants, knew that everybody would do that, which is why at the kind of recap later on, he wrote Au Mouvement, because he knew everybody would speed up. I mean, he just knew it. I mean, there's just, you know, it's only natural. We're humans, right? We're not constructed of AI. So can you start from here? And try that, and give me piano. Don't get louder within those 2 bars, and then the next one, bump it up a little bit. Okay? Okay, no. Again, don't, you know. No, just very straight. Don't slow. MP, only MP. Forte. Crescendo. Fortissimo. Okay, great. That was fantastic. When you get to this big, when you come down on the list, there's no diminuendo really. You took a diminuendo when there wasn't one.
Okay.
I would actually not start doing that diminuendo until he says start to diminuendo, because it took you so long to get there, and it's so way. And then we're back to another dynamic. Do you want to just try from somewhere in that, you know, maybe from there? That's it, diminuendo. Beautiful, fantastic. Piano. Okay, here I'd like you to use less pedal. I think, you know, again, the big toe and the second toe, but less. You know, we could actually make it quite shallow, because I think, again, that's where the fountain had the most water. Now the fountain is down to like a little trickle. And I think where the little trickle is, we need to like let the pedal kind of clear. Okay, can you just start right on that and give me a little less? Let me hear it, and then I might stop you and say, a little less, a little more, a little less. Go ahead. No, less. No, a little more. Sorry. It's like I'm a cook. That's it. That's perfect. Right. And also, I think you could do, without relying on the pedal, I think you can do better with your legato. Here, this is too much. This is too little. But so I have to find it. You know, it's just enough so I can hear the little notes, but the right hand should be still very legato. Can you try that? Good. Legato the right hand. Right in time. More pedal. Okay, here again, I think you seem to want a diminuendo where there's no diminuendo. Is there a diminuendo there?
No.
Don't do it.
Okay.
Yeah, just keep that fullness. Then you drop right here. Keep it up, right? Let's start again from the top. Do it again and really pay attention. No diminuendos, don't do it. No rallentandos, don't do it. And work with your pedal. Okay, try it again. Stay. Piano. Clear it. Forte. Stay forte. Mezzo forte. Okay, great. Now we're back to what we call the recap, right? Okay. Can I experiment with you for 1 second?
Sure.
I'd like you to try to play that exact same section one more time, and I'm just going to place very gently my hand here.
Okay.
And I'm going to place very gently my hand here. And I want to see if, you know, let's imagine that you're standing in front of the fountain and you're looking at it. How would you stand? Just stand up for a minute. Let's pretend let's look at City Hall for a minute. Let's imagine that's Jeux. how would you stand and look at it? Right. You're not doing these things in front of it unless you really want to. I mean, you know, we've seen people kind of dance around, but I like you to pretend your hands are definitely the fountain, but your body is you standing there. Could you try to do that and just see what happens? I'm just gonna very quietly be here in front of you. Just look at it. What did that feel like? I know it probably felt weird to you, but did you feel more in control in a way?
Yeah, a little.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
I think one of my observations about students is that the moving around is an indication of different things. I don't know you that well, so I don't, you know, you're very musical, you're incredibly skilled, but I do feel like you kind of get in your own way. And if you can imagine that you are just looking at City Hall, or you're looking at the fountain and you just sit down and play like you're just looking at something, I think you're actually going to find this piece a lot less difficult, funny, right? And maybe later in life when you become my age, okay, you won't have back problems, okay? That's a whole nother benefit of this. So there are a couple of things I think maybe you could work on, and I'd be happy to work with you a little bit more on that, okay? Let's go back to the recap now and finish this piece, and then I want to leave some time for you to ask me questions.
Okay.
So let's just start at the recap and let's go to the end. And there is one moment in this recap that says très rapide, which is absolutely correct. Again, if you look at très rapide there, you have a crescendo to a triple forte. Then he says specifically mezzo forte to forte. Then he says mezzo forte diminuendo to piano. So again, Ravel is, remember the socks story I told you? He's very precise. He knows exactly what he wants. So I want you to really look at those markers and do what he says and correlate with your foot.
Yeah.
When you're at full forte, go for it. Just step right on that pedal. But as you're getting less and less, think of the volume of water is coming down, and the amount of pedal will correlate to that. Does that make sense? And then if you can, think about this a little bit. Okay, that's a lot to think about. beautiful. Really gorgeous. Really beautiful. The ending of this piece is kind of weird, you know, right? And my teacher of Lotto said to me that the way he does it, and I've never been able to do this because I feel too weird doing it, but he wants you to play that last thing. Hold your hands up here, like that. He said, let the pedal and the hands move up, like they're kind of disappearing together. And you know, I've kind of done it over the years, but I do feel a little awkward doing. But that I do think it could work if you're willing to try that. You want to just try it?
Okay.
Why don't you go from the very last? And I still think you could play that with more care. Still, okay? Just sit back and listen to it. Up in the air. I know it's silly, just hold it and let the pedal go with your hands. Beautiful. Oh, you're so terrific.
Thank you.
I love teaching you. Okay, sit and relax.
Okay.
Talk to me. You have questions?
Not immediately. Nothing
Not
I can think
immediately?
of.
It's a lot of things to think about.
Yeah.
But I think the most important thing, if I can leave you with, is just realize you're not in the fountain. You're standing outside and you're looking at that fountain. As opposed to feeling like, oh, I'm having a great, you know, I get it. You know, I have little tiny nephews and nieces who are like, the littlest one 6 months, and they just want to get in the water.
Yeah.
I get that. But this is not that story, you know. He wrote 3 pieces about water. The other one is called Une barque sur l'océan, which is about a boat that's about to capsize. That's a really interesting experience. I played that in Holland many years ago, and I played the whole set of Miroir. And this really cute Dutch guy came up to me and he said, "I really loved your Une barque sur l'océan, but it almost made me throw up." And I said, "Well, gee, thanks so much. That's such a great compliment. No one's ever said that to me before, you know." So that is definitely more of an experience, okay? And then, you know, there's Undine. You know, Undine is about a totally different experience. You have the water, and then you have the mermaid. That's her in the water, and you're describing, not objectively, you are Undine and you're in the water. But this is not any of those pieces. This is not the throw-up piece. This is not Undine. This is where you're standing and looking, and you're describing.
Yeah.
Okay?
I have one question, I guess. We didn't talk about una corda at all.
Una corda, you know, una corda is also a color mechanism. It's not to help you play softer.
Yeah.
I think the 2 areas I'd like you to work on mostly is on developing more of a legato. You know, Volato studied with Courteau, and Courteau was insistent that we should be able to play perfect legato without pedal, and I worked on that a lot. I mean, today I didn't warm up, and I'm really regretting that because I went to hear that wonderful concert of Father and Son. But to me, it's really about being able to play that legato without relying on your foot. And then the same thing for una corda. You should be able to play so soft without una corda, right? But you should be able to use una corda and the damper pedal because you need it and you want it. You want it for a particular color.
Okay.
So again, go back to the idea of Ravel's socks. I know it's ridiculous to think about it, but I think he was very clear about what he wanted. And if you notice in your score, maybe even in my score, there are very few pedal markings, but I'm going to let you take a look at this one because there are lots of pedal markings in it. And even in the pedal markings, it'll say half or it'll say quarter.
Right. Okay.
So take a picture of this.
Okay. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, here you are.
Thank you.